Hi, I'm Chad with Move for Guitar. This lesson is from our series, How to Read Music for Guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to explain the relative minor and minor key signatures. First off, if you like all the diagrams for this series, including the diagrams for this lesson, you can download our free e-guide, How to Read Music for Guitar. But I am working on it right now as I'm filming this lesson, so it might not be available as you're watching this lesson. If it is available, a link will pop up on the screen that'll allow you to download it. And like I said, it's free, so there's no reason not to download it when it is available. This is part 20 from our series, How to Read Music for Guitar. If you'd like to go back and start at the beginning, you can click the link on the screen. So I've shown you how to build a major scale and how it relates to the key signatures, that all the key signatures relate to major scale keys. And for example, what's on your screen right now is the C major scale, and you get that by using the formula whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So if you start on C, use that formula, you end up with the notes of a C major scale. If you start on another note like an F, then you'd end up with an F major scale, and so on. And I explained how the key signatures all relate to those major scale keys. For example, the one with no sharps or flats is the key of C. The one with one sharp is the key of G. So all the notes in here on a piece of music are going to be the notes from the G major scale, and so on, unless there's an accidental used in here for a note that's outside of the key. And one thing I didn't mention yet, because I didn't want to be too confusing, is that all of these key signatures not only relate to a major scale key, they relate to a minor scale key as well. So every one of these key signatures relates to two separate keys, and it would actually look like this. So for the key of C, it could also be the key of A minor. The key of G could also be the key of E minor. They share the same key signature. And the minor scale is called the relative minor. It's related to the major scale because it shares the same key signature. And I'm not diving deep into the minor scales in this lesson. I'm going to talk a little bit about it in this lesson and in the next lesson. But if you really want to dive into minor scale theory and harmony and all of that, check out my series Music Theory for Guitar, where I really dive into all that. But just for a basic understanding, minor scales have a sadder, darker sound. Major scales have a brighter, happier sound. That's the easiest way to describe them, and you're able to hear that pretty easily in most situations. And the way you get a relative minor, we'll go back to the C major scale, and then we're going to number each one of these notes, which would be 1 through 7, because there's 7 notes in the major scale. You don't count this one because that's just repeating the first note, so it's an octave higher. The way you find the relative minor scale is to go to the 6th degree, and in the key of C, that's an A. So now to build an A minor scale, all you do is start with A, make that your new root, your new tonal center, and then rearrange these notes to follow that order. So now it'd be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, back to A. And it would look like this. So it's still all the notes of the C major scale, but now your tone is revolving around this A instead of around this C. And because of that, and because of the distances it creates between these notes, it creates a minor sound. It creates a darker minor sound. And like I said, if you really want to dive into that, check my Music Theory for Guitar series, and I really explain all that. But just know for now that the reason it sounds minor is because of the distances it creates between the notes, especially right here, which is what's called a minor third or a flat 3, and a major scale or a major chord or anything that's major has a major third. So that's the difference between major and minor. This right here, this flat 3, which is the distance from the root to this note, creates that minor sound. So this is called the A natural minor scale. It has other names as well, but you don't need to worry about it for now. Just know now it's called a natural minor scale. And it's called natural minor scale because it's coming out of a major scale, which A natural minor is coming out of the C major scale, and it contains all the same notes. None of the notes are altered from what are in the C major scale. So that may be confusing if you've never dealt with this before, the reason to why the A minor scale has all the same notes as the C major scale. But again, it comes down to creating this as your tonal center, making this your root, creating this as your tonal center, which creates different distances between these notes, which creates a darker minor sound instead of the brighter happy major sound. And so if you were playing this scale, you would start on A, play to A, and when you hit that A again, that's where it sounds like it's resolving now, not around the C. Before, when you're playing a C major scale, it's revolving and resolving around that C. And it would be the same thing if you're playing a chord progression. Now the chords are still the same as what's in the C major scale, but they're rearranged. So this first one is A minor now, and all the sound is going to revolve around this A minor. When you hit this A minor at the end, it sounds like you can end it there, or you could keep going, but it really resolves on that A minor. So if you're to look at a C major scale, it looks like this. There's no key signature showing because there's no sharps and flats in a C major scale, and it's just C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then I just drew it going back down. An A natural minor scale has all the same notes, shares the same key signature, which in this key, the C major scale or the A minor scale has no key signature because there's no sharps and flats. It shares all the same notes, except now the A is the note that is your tonal center, not the C. So if you played the scale in order, you'd start on A and end on A. And to build a natural minor scale, it's now whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, instead of the major scale, which is whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So if you apply this formula starting on any note, you've created a natural minor scale. Since I started on A, I've created an A natural minor scale. But if I applied the same formula starting on a G, I would have a G natural minor scale. And so again, the reason I'm showing you this for this series about how to read music is because when you see a key signature, for example, if you saw this right here, which refers to the key of G, it also can refer to the key of E minor, and that's the relative minor. So you have to be aware of that when you're reading music, that a key signature has two possibilities. And there's multiple ways to tell what key it's actually in. For example, if it starts on E minor chord and ends on an E minor chord, there's a very good chance it's in the key of E minor instead of G. But there's other ways to tell. I'm not going to get too deep into that in this lesson. For now, you just need to be aware that when you see a key signature, it has two possibilities, the major and the minor is called the relative minor. So here's another example. Here's the A major scale, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. If we numbered those 1 through 7, we would take the 6th degree, and starting there and rearranging the notes, we'd end up with an F sharp natural minor scale, which is the relative minor to A major. So if you saw an A major scale written in music notation, it could look something like this. This is your key signature for A major because there's 3 sharps. And you should remember that from the circle of fifths lesson and all the other lessons we went over where we talked about that. When A is your tonal center, it's in the key of A. But if you were to rearrange these notes and make F sharp your tonal center, now you're in the key of F sharp minor. And they share the same key signature. So now that means if we go back to the circle of fifths, again, these are all your major scale keys on the outside. These are how many sharps or flats are in that key. These represent what sharps are in that key. These represents what flat are in the key. You can go back and watch a circle of fifths lesson I did if you don't remember that or if you haven't seen it. Every one of these major scales, major scale keys, is related to a minor scale, which is the relative minor. And if we drew that inside, that's what it would be. So the C major scale, the relative minor is A minor. The G major scale, the relative minor is E minor. D major is B minor, and so on. And still they share the same sharps and flats, and they all relate to these. And the way you know what the relative minor is you take the major scale for the major key and you go to the 6th degree, and that's what the relative minor is. For example, we could go to E. If we built an E major scale, it'd be E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. C sharp is the 6th degree in the E major scale, so that means C sharp minor is the relative minor of E major. And they both have 4 sharps, they both share the same key signature, they both have F, C, G, and D as their sharps in that key. Or another way to look at it, I've just written out all the major scales just in alphabetical order. So you have your roots here. So starting with A, you have the A major scale going this way. So that's A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Here's the numbers for each one of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is just the 8th, which is just starting over, which is an octave higher. To find the relative minor for any of these major scales, or major scale keys, is you go to the 6th, and that's your relative minor. So the key of A major, its relative minor is F sharp minor. The key of B flat major, the relative minor is G minor, and so on. The key of F major, the relative minor is D minor. And so we can highlight that. You can see where all the relative minors are. And you can see up here I have it as whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, which is how you build a major scale, which is talking about all the distances between these notes. Now if we rearrange it and we put the 6th degree first, which is the relative minor, and then just put all the notes back in order starting after the 6th degree, now we end up with whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. So these are all your relative minors of the major scale. So F sharp is a relative minor of A. So now your major scales are all right here. So F sharp is a relative minor of A, G is a relative minor of B flat, and so on. So all of these are your natural minor scales. So F sharp natural minor, G natural minor, and so on. So then again, you can take that information, look back at your key signatures, and then know how to fill in what the minor possibility is for that key signature. Because like I said, every key signature has 2 possibilities, major and minor. So that's one possibility for minor scales. In the next lesson, I'm going to talk about 2 other possibilities. So be sure to watch that lesson. It's really important to understand those as well. So that's an explanation of the relative minor. Go ahead and move on to the next lesson where I'm going to talk more about minor scales. And be sure to download the e-guide. All the diagrams are in there. And be sure to subscribe because we have at least one new lesson every day.